Looks like we're rolling. Yeah, this is from distillery down in Pikeville, Kentucky, where Hunter's at med school for now. She's actually looking. She's looking at. They got to move. She's heading towards her clinicals. I think is next, and she's looking at. How do you say it? Chillicothe.
Yeah.
Chillicothe or whatever it is, right there.
I've hunted
south.
that.
Yeah,
I've had a lease in that area, and then I've hunted.
Bring it just a little bit closer to your mouth there, bud. There you
go. I've hunted that with an outfitter, and then I've had a lease in that area. It's great.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
It's in the middle of it.
You need to get in or out of the picture here, girl. Got the little ones with us today.
Yeah, I'm on kid duty.
Yeah. So I was actually pretty excited about that. She's like, yeah, I'm looking in Southern Ohio for my next school. And I'm like, not mad about that at all. Give me another reason to go down. Now she's been in Kentucky for 2 years and I didn't hunt it, which is a shame. I should have got down to Pike County and found a spot to hunt, but didn't do that. So, but we're here at your wonderful winery here. Tannin Tonic in downtown Butler. Got the kids running around. Got Draco the pup running around.
The bouncer Draco.
Yeah. Got Butch, also known as Woods.
Woods Butch.
Just checking things out over here. Dozing off. Yeah. So, yeah. Before we get started, catching up on the hunting stuff, though, I got one thing I got to get off my chest. So my niece, Chloe, made states again in golf, and she went up there and got a top 10 finish in states, which is wild. So that's her 5th overall trip to states, 4th in golf, like unprecedented, right? So when she got that, when she went and she gets a top 10, which again is just amazing, and I call up the local fire department because you know the thing they do here, right, in our school district. So they escort the kids back. So typically, like when I was growing up and up until just a couple of years ago, if you won districts, which meant you're going to go to states or whatever, even when you just won districts, you got an escort back to school. Like you got to the edge of the school district, the high school, or I'm sorry, the fire departments meet you, and they turn their lights and sirens on, and it's kind of like a little parade going back to the school, right?
Right.
Kids absolutely love it.
Yep.
The kids love it. It's one of the things they look back and are like, oh, you remember when we got led into town? Like it's part of that experience, part of that memory structure, right? I called them this year and I said, hey, Chloe got a top 10. Let's surprise her. Let's have her get led back in, whatever. And they're like, oh, we don't do that anymore.
Since when?
The only time they do it now is if someone wins states. So basically once every, what's that going to be, 20 years, if that. And the reason is that community members were bitching. They were getting woken up by the sirens going by their house. Not only did it bother them enough to be assholes like that night, they literally would call the school the next day to complain about the fire department escorting these young athletes back. And they do it for academics as well. We had a young kid finish first in the country in national academics, and they escorted him back in. And imagine how miserable your life has to be.
I don't love that. Yeah.
To wake up the next day and call the school and be like, why did those sirens go? What do you do when there's a fire? You know what I mean? Like, so if you live in my school district where my son goes to school, where I grew up, and you're one of those people, please find me because I'd like to smack you in the mouth for being an asshole because you're already miserable. You might as well get a welt to go with it because dude, that's been bugging me for a month.
We got some strong feelings about this. Yeah.
It's just bullshit. People are taking away from the kids for no reason.
You
other
shouldn't
than be miserable.
I remember coming back from D9 games at Clarion and rolling through Bruin and across Cadillac Bend into Hornertown, right through Petrolia to the high school and having an escort, and people would stand out outside their house. I remember Hornertown specifically, from Bruin to Petroleum, and that was always great. So
they're taking that away because they want their beauty sleep.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that little stretch there between this has nothing to do with anything anyone's going to understand, but between Parker, you come up out of Bear Creek Hill. You guys call that the Bacon Strip?
Never heard that.
Yeah, you know where the Bacon Strip would be, though, right? You know that stretch
from Parker towards Bruin.
Towards Bruin, yeah.
Yeah, you'd go through the game lands, and then it would be the next. Yeah, there's a power line.
That's the truck drivers used to call that the Bacon Strip.
Yeah,
they'd say, well,
this
you
is
see yourself in
this
there.
is the jetty.
Yep. Getting Corn Thicket famous. You see yourself in there, yeah. So anyway, let's get caught up on the hunting stuff, man. Brock got his. We'll cover that. You had any encounters you want to share with?
Yep.
With the big boy.
Yep. So,
well, let me level set here. It's what, November 13th today, 14th.
It's the 14th.
14th. Yeah.
Today's so November 14th.
Yeah, so we're in the thick of it.
All right, girls, let's go color or something. Can we go color? Can we go color?
Hey, you girls can play with this after we're done, I promise.
Go make a nice painting, the best one ever.
Yeah. Bring it back. We'll show everybody once you get it painted up. All right. So November 14th, we're in the thick of it.
Yeah, right now is like hardcore lockdown.
They're either running or they're not moving at all.
My cameras have died figuratively and literally. I have because it went down to like 20 something degrees.
Killed all the batteries.
Man, I've smoked a couple cameras that cold, and then also just the ones that are and have been for the last 10 days really busy cameras are just there's nothing moving, and then on stand I'm seeing the same thing. It's like the last couple of days are making you second guess if you're doing anything right.
Yeah,
just because there's no numbers.
See, yesterday morning was I didn't have any big ones going, but we got a hot doe right behind my house, and I went and jumped because I can jump in that ladder stand and get an hour and a half in before work starts. Right, just right there, it's 50 yards off the back, and that's where that big boy was running. We'll get into him there in a minute, but had one hot doe come through. And she was hot the day before because I got like a wide 6. I don't even know if I sent it to you. He's just a young thing, but got a nice frame on him. And he was just politely standing back all day yesterday behind the house. Like she'd take 2 steps, he'd take 2 steps, like that kind of thing. Wasn't really dogging her, and she didn't mind it. So I know she was getting close. Well, then yesterday morning, I went and sat in that stand in case that big boy that we'll get into here in a minute comes by, and she comes through with him again. And then here come 2 little 6 points matched up like 10 minutes later, right on the same trail, nose to the ground. Then here comes a spike, nose to the ground, right where she went. So she's obviously leaving some scent that's saying she's in, because no matter where she goes, she's got 3, 4, 5 young buck trailing her. But yeah, let's get back to the big one you've been chasing. So,
we talked
stacks.
We talked about stacks, and I don't know if we were I think I came over right before the season started.
Yeah.
And the season opened on a Saturday, and I hunted that Saturday, and there was seven dudes out there on that farm. This deer stacks is like super popular. A bunch of people know he's there. A bunch of people have been talking about him. And at about 7:45 in the morning on Saturday morning, there was guys walking the field edge with crossbows shouldered, like they were like creeping, like they were gonna maybe walk up on a deer standing 10 yards inside the woods and pull up and get a shot.
Yeah.
So that that type of stuff, but.
They watched The Walking Dead a little bit.
Yeah, dude, they're trying to pull a Daryl. So the opener came and went, and then on Sunday, I was, obviously checking all the Facebook and Instagram pages, looking for kill photos. Yeah. Is he dead? Is he alive? And Sunday night went by, woke up Monday morning, which would be the second day of the season. And I'm getting ready for work. Like, I'm just going to hunt afternoons for the first while. You know, I wake up Monday morning to get ready for work, and what was it? 5:15 a.m. So it was like an hour before I woke up. I look on my one camera, and there's Stacks, and he's going behind my stand into the bedding area that he beds in when he comes out to the field.
Right.
So I started texting all you guys.
Yeah.
I said, I can't believe it. He just went into bed right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to see him tonight. I know it.
Yeah.
And I went to work and I told everybody at the office,
Jinxed it.
People know I'm a big buck hunter, and, they're asking, how'd the season opener go? And I told everybody, I said, I'm going to get that big deer I've been hunting tonight. And, you try to explain to people that don't understand deer movement, and when they go to a bed, the chances they're going to be somewhere on that stuff.
Right.
My wind was great, and I told everybody, I said, I'm going to shoot him tonight. And I got up in my stand that night, and I was texting you and Ben, and that entire day, dude, I was so worked up. I knew it. I knew. So he went, a 4-point went in front of my camera. About 3 minutes later, Stacks went in front of the camera, and then they went right into that CRP, which leads to that bed. So I'm sitting there, and an hour before dark, that 4-point came out, and I was like, "Oh,
and he's always traveling.
I'm like, let's go." Not that, and I don't think they travel together. It's just like these bucks will just kind of get on the same routine, and it's like I don't think they're watching each other going, well, he's moving. I'm going to go now. They're just like they're doing the same thing.
Right.
So he came out, and, man, what a hunt, and there were some big lessons learned. So I think nine bucks in a bachelor group came out to my hard right. They come down, and just as they came out into the beans fielding, in the bean field feeding, a group of 3 does on my left came out. So you have 9 bachelor bucks, and they're scrapping a little bit and grunting at each other, and a couple of them are looking at the does. And it's getting darker and darker and darker, and then finally behind me I hear sticks and leaves. And here's first lesson learned. So this is the first year that I'm shooting a hybrid back tension release that doesn't strap on your wrist. Okay?
Right.
My whole life I've always had a release strapped on my wrist.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time to shoot, you clip your release on your D-loop and you draw. Okay. Should not have done that. Should have had my release clipped on my D-loop hanging on the bow all the time.
Yeah.
When it's time to grab the bow, you put your hand inside your release and draw. So I didn't have that done. So first deer that hits the tree line at 28 yards, I can tell it's a buck, but there's this thick brush, and it's the last couple minutes of shooting light. I pull my glass up. I have to use my binoculars to confirm, and I'm like, that's not him. So he feeds out in the field, and I hear a buck making a rub right behind him. So now I have my bow on the hanger, my release in my pocket, and my glass on my chest.
Right.
So when the second deer hits the field edge, I pull my glass up, and I'm like, holy smokes, it's him.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm putting glass in my chest rig. I'm reaching over, grabbing my bow, and I'm digging in my pocket for my release. Now I'm trying to get that small little release on my D-loop.
And you're all worked up. You've been pumped up all day.
10, 15 seconds go by. So now this deer that was, Stacks, this 170-inch buck that was 28 yards broadside standing there is now, 37, 38 yards out in the field, and now he's getting in a mix with all the other deer. So by the time I get this release on, I go full draw, and somewhere in between me going full draw and me getting it back and looking through my peep sight, one of those younger deer chased a doe, and there was a big mix-up. I can see 2 or 3 good bucks, and I know Stacks is one of them, and I don't know 100% which one's him.
Yeah, I remember this.
Because there was this mix. And I am like, now, the closest deer to me is at 40 yards. And in my head, I say the closest deer to me would be the last one out.
Right.
And I sailed the pin and shot. And I initially thought that I hit that deer a little bit high than I wanted to. It was a quartering away. Everything was what I wanted it to be. But when I shot, that deer dipped. And I watched that Luminoc, which failed. I saw it hit him, and then it shut off and never saw it ever again. I wrote the company an email. I wasn't too happy. But, man, my initial – and I pulled the glass up, and I watched all the deer running off, and I watched the one deer with its tail spinning 360 like they do when you hit them. and he ran up to the tree line, and there was some confusion. But I knew where these group of deer went and where the deer I shot went. And instead of just being so pumped, I was like, man, I hope I shot the right buck.
Right.
Because
happening quick and
it
low
just,
light, all that.
Yeah, and it's like I was rushing it, and it was low light, and like that mix up in the end. So instead of me being super pumped, I'm more concerned about shooting the right deer. And I started calling you and Ben swung over, and we could not find that arrow anywhere. Couldn't find blood. And I said, Ben, I killed this deer. There's no question about it. It's just I hope that it's the right one. Mm-hmm. And I went home, laid down. Man, I had dreams. You were coming to meet me in the morning. I had the same dream 3 times in a row that we found this deer under an old barn dead. It was Stacks. And each time I had the dream, I was so paranoid. I was going, "Hey, is it him, Howie?" And you were like, "It's him." Literally had that dream
about me.
Yeah, yep.
I like it.
So I woke up at we were going to meet at 5:30 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or 6.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to meet at 6 at the old gas station. And at like 5:15, I'm getting ready to leave the house, and I go, I better check my trail cameras. And I pull my Moultrie mobile app out, and if he's not on that camera all night long with dried blood on his sides, eating acorns and checking scrapes.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the one picture that I sent to buddies has
you
at the top going, "You still want me to meet you for the recovery, right?" Like, and it was like, no, I hit that deer right through that backstrap meat land. On top of this. It's on top of the spine.
Yeah.
It's just backstrap meat. If you go under the spine, then you're catching top lungs and stuff. But a lot of times when guys hit deer high, they call it the no man's land. It's really not what it is. It's just there's a couple inches of backstrap meat on top of that spine.
Yeah.
So that was the second day of the season, October 7th. I shot Stacks.
Yeah.
And, my whole thing.
And he didn't leave. I mean, he literally was within yards of where you put an arrow through him.
Yeah,
within like 6 hours.
He was within 100 yards 4 hours later on a different camera eating acorns. And
man, they're tough.
I've put so much pressure on myself because, if I kill Stack or when I kill Stacks or whatever, that'll be back-to-back Pennsylvania public land booners with a bow. And I don't know anybody that's ever done that. So I have this opportunity, and I just want to do it so bad. And so for that to go down the way it did, obviously it's like, well, okay, well, he's still alive, so that's great. But it's like I could have just got it done right now and just killed him and been done. So the very next night, same exact situation. He was on camera with the dried blood on his sides going into the same bed again. So I said, this is easy. I'm just going to go sit the same stand, and he's going to come out again, and I'm going to shoot him again 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And I sat that stand, and big bachelor group of bucks came out, and right at dark, I heard a deer sneak down the same trail that Stacks did the night before. And instead of coming out this time, that deer stood there and stood there and stood there. Deer in the field snorted, got my wind, and deer took off every way, and he disappeared for 20 days.
Yeah.
So I shot him on Monday night. On Tuesday night, I'm in the stand because he's going to do it again. Pretty sure he's standing inside the tree line where I can't see him. A deer in the field snorts, and all these deer bust. And it was 20 days. It was nothing until October 28th.
Yeah.
And then he showed up on camera on the 28th. He showed up on camera the 29th. Scent checking this ditch right where I shot him.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he went for 3 weeks, but he went somewhere. And then he showed up on camera 28th, 29th. I moved my stand on the 30th from the Beanfield edge. I went 60 yards in the timber. Leaves are all down, and landscape's changing, and I'm like, it's time to push into the timber anyway. So I pushed that stand in there on the 30th, and an hour before dark, he stands up 100 yards in front of me with a doe. He's already on a doe.
Yeah.
So when he was on camera the 28th and the 29th, nose down scent checking, he was looking for a doe, and then he found one. And he's the dominant mature buck in the area. He's going to get the first hot doe. And where I'm hunting anyway, I'm not saying this is for everybody. Where I'm hunting, the first hot doe is October 30th, and he got her.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about that is when he stood up with that doe, I saw the doe. I pulled the glass up. I'm looking, and then he stands up. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
And he stands there for a minute, and I'm just looking at him. He's huge.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got this big gnarly scar on his back, right where that arrow came out on the exit side. He's got a big scar. And he does a mule kick and runs 30 yards to his right, like right up out of his bed. I think I saw the moment that he was leaving the doe he was locked with. I think he found a doe like early in the morning on the 29th, let's say 4 in the morning on the 29th.
Yeah.
And I think he was with her until 6 o'clock in the evening on the 30th, 32 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And I watched them stand up out of their bed after laying there all day, most likely breeding.
Yeah.
And I watched them split. I've never, I've seen.
He went to go get some milk.
Yeah. Smoke a cigarette.
He'll be right back.
I've seen 100 lockdown bucks, and I've never seen one separated doe. So I think I saw the moment that he was leaving his doe to go find another one.
Yeah.
And I stopped him with a grunt, and he stood there for 20 minutes. And then it was one of those deals where he stopped, it was so hard to see him with the glass that one of the times I took an arms break, I pulled up and I couldn't see him again. And he's been gone ever since. So confident he's not dead right now. I saw him 15 days ago.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been to Ohio on the lease. Ben missed a great big 150-inch deer out there. He had a day where he saw 31 bucks in a sit in that creek bottom, and he thinks 10 of them were repeats. But that's 20, probably 20 plus deer.
Yeah.
But this rut's been so interesting, and it's because this is the first year that I haven't been guiding. I've been in the stand. I have almost 120 hours in the stand on stacks, and I've got to watch this entire rut unfold from the standpoint, from being in the stand, not guiding, not outfit, not doing that whole deal, and also not tagged out early.
Right.
So I have seen the ebbs and the flow of the rut this year.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think that the 6th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, when we got that cold front, was the best buck movement days.
Right.
And pretty much since like the 9th of November,
they've been locked down.
It's been locked down, frustrating. And unless you're in an area where you're in a good thicket and you have a hot doe right now, like you just had, you were saying earlier. But so that's where I'm at right now.
So we'll cover Brock's buck probably on a different podcast. I actually want to sit down with him.
You gotta have him
and just
on.
talk to him. Yeah, have him on here. His second buck with a compound, his 10th buck overall, 15 years old. It's his 10th buck, which is wild. 9 in Pennsylvania, 8 of those with a bow, either a crossbow or a compound. Now 2 of them with a compound. Only 1 with a rifle and 1 with a bow in Missouri. So young man's been doing pretty well. The spot we found was just one of those. It was one of those rare spots where you're like, this looks like a great spot. This feels like a great spot, and it actually was a great spot.
You had daylight pictures of bucks in there the week before.
Yeah. And the only thing he did, and he'll learn, he's young. We call it the brat of death, right? You got brat. That's my kids all know when we say brat, something's going to die. When I get the video put out, which I need to put that together.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
We do it at the same time. Like, because I didn't know if he was going to do it. I didn't know if we both go brat, like exactly the same time.
Yeah.
And I told him literally 5 minutes before this buck came out, I said, when we stop it, you've got like 10 seconds. Like, it's not going to.
Well, but that's so hard.
I'm trying to get him to slow down a little bit.
It's impossible.
This was like one of those.
Everybody does
like
that.
Right on it.
Yeah.
Right. The thing didn't even have a chance to stop before he shot. I'm like, the whole point is to get to stop. He rushed the shot a little bit, hit it a tiny bit back, but he was still in the rib cage, like we just talked about before we got on here. So he got some lung. That thing died in the water. We'll get into all that, but the thing now that he's tagged out, now I'm hunting. Right. And you'll understand once your kids get that age, like things change. I was the biggest hunter ever. Oh, I'm all about, hunting and this and that. And then your kids get old enough. You're like, I'm not going to shoot a good buck until they're tagged out. Because why would I shoot it? It takes one out that they could get. Right. I mean, it just changes everything. But anyway, he shoots his, actually he didn't get his till after I think this happened. But on October 31st, I sent you that picture. Halloween night, double drop tine shows up right behind my house. Now, I don't know what he scores. I don't care. He's got his left side has a drop tine that's probably 10 inches long, 10 inches long, and it's got a big knot on the end of it. Matching drop on the other side doesn't have the knot. Dude, I mean, so I've told myself over the last 10 years, don't hunt one deer. It's gonna break your heart. You hunt one deer, a lot of times it's gonna break your heart, right?
It's tough.
And the problem is, I've never seen this deer before. I don't have him summer. I didn't see him crossing a road. I didn't see him out my back window. Nothing. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this deer I'd never heard of, boom, he's there
on the 31st.
On the 31st, and then he's gone. Right now, since then, a couple things have happened. Saturday, directly across the road from me, literally 125 yards from my stand that picture showed up at. He was seen. He walked across a dirt road at 9 o'clock in the morning. A guy that doesn't hunt, but I know
this past Saturday, like November,
whatever that
9th or something.
Yeah. Just walked right at 9 o'clock in the morning. Just strolled right across, heading our way. Now there's a bunch of thick stuff in between us, and I think that's where he's homing because it's super thick. There's water. There's all kinds of gullies and everything in there. Like it's just prime spot. And that's a spot where I've noticed. I actually said to my wife this year, late summer, I said, there must be a giant buck over there, like right next to us, right? But it's almost like a whole different world, right? That when they're in there, they kind of just stay in there in this spot. Now, she goes, why are you saying that? I said, did you notice? So the guy that owns the property doesn't live in town. So a bunch of other guys post it. They don't own it. They don't even probably know the guy.
They don't have permission to post
it. They just post it because they know he's never around. You can't get in touch with him, right? Because I've been trying to buy property off him, but you can't get in touch with him.
Yeah.
So all these fresh posted signs show up, like middle of September. And I mean, posted sign here, one behind it. Every tree has a posted sign. I'm like, you don't do that to protect a 2.5-year-old 8-point. Like something's going on. And then I see this gray Dodge Ram there every night, like walking in right where all these are. I'm like, man, so somebody's on something. Then I get this picture. And so let me back up. So I sent the picture to Doug as well. I sent to you guys and I sent to Doug. And a few days later, Doug writes me. He goes, look at this. He sends me a link to this Facebook page. And on this Facebook page, there's this guy on there. I'm not going to say his name. I don't know the guy, right? But this guy has this great big long post on Facebook. And it starts off with, when I'm on a stand, nothing moves but my head. I don't care if I'm there for 12 hours. Nothing moves but my head. I never miss, and I'm always lethal, he says. And it's his whole thing, right? So I'm instantly like, okay, bud. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you say you never miss and you're always lethal, you haven't hunted archery very long, or you're a liar. Those are the only two choices. Like things happen, things happen. And as a quick aside, because I like doing that, I have a video of my cousin shooting at a buck up at our camp in New Bethlehem. I have it. It's on the snowy hillside. We're in this tree stand, but it's on the hillside up from us. And he missed his buck. And I was razzing him a little bit for it. And then I went and slowed down the video. When he shot at this buck, he would have grazed its stomach where the arrow went. Like if you stop, like what I did was I took the image where his arrow ended up going. He would actually missed it low, or he would have hit like on the brisket, like right at the end, like right at the bottom of the belly. That deer ducked so hard that he missed it above the deer. That deer dropped, and it was 28 yards away.
That's quite a bit.
It dropped so far, he was going to miss it low or barely nick it low, and he missed it above its back. It did that thing where you, like it's right at the shoulders, it can get that dip. You know what I'm talking about? It went right through that.
They're loading up to really jump
high. It just nicked the top of his back. And I was giving him shit, and I look back at the video, I'm like, I don't know how you kill that deer. because even if you aim bottom third, you're going to miss by 6 inches over its back. The way it happened to react, right? It was on edge, all that stuff. But at 27 yards, it was wild. And he's shooting like a 68-pound Matthews at time. Like, I mean, it's not something that was. Anyway, so anybody that tells me that they've been hunting all these years and they're always lethal and they never miss, I'm like, okay, pal. Well, he puts up a picture of this buck, that's double drop time buck, and he goes on and he's like, here's pictures of it in the summer. Meanwhile, I recognize where it was in the summer. Like, he put up pictures of this field. I'm like, I know where that field is, right? And so I do know where it was summer, actually. And he says, I shot it at 15 yards. I double lunged it. Can't believe it went like 400 yards. And I'm thinking, like, if you double lunged it, it didn't go 400 yards right out of the gate. Showing pictures of blood. And then I lost it. And the swamp water got above my boots, so I had to back out. And they're showing all this blood in the swamp. And there was a lot of blood, right? And all these guys, 200 and some comments on there. I will come help you look for this buck.
It was shot.
So he's like, all these guys are like, I will help you look for this buck. I'm not looking to hunt your land. I will come help you. I just don't want this buck to go to waste. That's an amazing animal, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't take anybody up on any of this. And people are asking for updates and not getting anything. So he got a lot of attention, but isn't really like following up on any of this, right? Well, he put that post up on October 15th. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this picture October 31st, and I can see that buck's flank, and it did not have a hole in it. Right?
Yeah,
16 days later.
So if he shot him on the 15th, then,
he hit a leg or something.
Then at least the deer's alive. And
yeah. And it wasn't a body cavity shot. I have a full left side photo of this buck. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing I can't tell is his left leg, just the way it was walking. I only got one picture of it. I had a 3-camera burst, but I only got one shot of him. Mm-hmm. And the way his leg is down, I can't tell if it's injured or if he's just taking a step. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
His other 3 legs, you can tell by the way they're flexed. They seem okay. He could have hit it in the front left leg. Dude, he might have shot a completely different deer and just didn't want to admit that he got worked up and shot a different one. Who knows? You know what I mean? But, yeah, this guy, I never miss. I'm always lethal. I double lunged him. I'm like, well, here he is 16 days later. He doesn't have a hole in him.
Yeah, and it's tough to be perfect,
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that now, like you said, everybody knows about this buck, and everybody's kind of going after him. And there's a bunch of guys hunting that area. Well, the property behind me that I have, we have the farm that nobody's allowed to touch, and it's super heavily patrolled. It's super good cover. That's all that treetop stuff that we had knocked down. There's one pinch point, and that's where my stand is. And it's right in between where he's living, where we all think he's living, where we just seen on Saturday, and all this safe ground down here. Like,
yeah,
on the farm.
If you got the does in there, I mean, a pinch point between, you know, a buck's core area and because these bucks, they know.
And that's what I'm trying to do is every morning just getting out. Anytime I can, I'm just going to sit in that ladder.
Yeah, and that's all.
He's going to come through there again.
It's the same situation I'm in. You know, whenever I saw Stacks on the 30th, I watched the trail that he took when he left that doe out of that, because it's a doe bedroom, buck bedroom. It's just deer bedding. I watched the trail that he took, and I went and I set up 20 yards off that trail. And since then, I've had like 8 different bucks come to scent check that bedroom, and they use that trail to come in. They lead different ways, and sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes they come. But that trail is usually part of how they move through there.
Right.
So I have a camera on there, and I've had, you know, I passed a great deer the other morning, probably 130-inch 8-point, and then I have another deer I named Tex in there. He looks like a big Texas high-frame buck. He was in there all day Sunday, locked down with the doe. I was in Ohio. We can't hunt Sunday. But all I can do right now, like you, is this time of the year.
Just put time in. Just seat time.
You just seat time in an area that you know that he's been there before. He's moved through there before. And it's like at some point he will do that.
That's what I'm thinking. You just
have to be there for when he does.
I don't know why he came through there on October 31st. I don't have a picture of him before that. I don't have a picture of him since.
He was seeking.
But I know he's only he's only a couple hundred yards away.
That's that classic.
And I know they have all that pressure. And I'm like you said, if I put the time in, if nobody else gets them, and I actually – so I'm going to be in I think I told you we're heading to Belize over Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
So first day of rifle. I'm not big on getting them in rifle, but I will. I'm not going to turn them down.
Right.
You know? we're leaving Saturday morning, first day of rifle. So our flight's at like 7, right? So I told my nephew, I said, buddy, you better have your ass in that ladder stand.
Yeah.
Because when all that pressure comes in on that first Saturday, if I don't get him or Brock can't, but if my cousin, I told him, sit in that ladder stand any chance you get. Because the other benefit of that is that particular stand is right behind my house, dude. It's 50, 60 yards off my back porch.
Yeah.
And it's about 100 yards off my back porch. But so you can get away with getting in and out of that a bunch of times and not really worry about the scent.
That's perfect. And
because they're used to the scent. They're used to something blowing through there.
All the data says that the peak estrus time for the majority of the does is around the 15th of November, which would be tomorrow. Now it's going to be this way a few days or that way a few days, but that's when you see that major lockdown movement shut down, is when there's so many does in heat at one time that these bucks don't have to seek. But leading up to that, and I've seen it as early as like the 22nd of October in Illinois, where the bucks are seeking, and they're not finding anything.
Yeah.
So they're seeking, and you see these big movements by bucks, and they'll give you little clues. Back in October, or on the 30th or 31st, you see them cruising a trail with their nose down. You get them on camera at midnight, and they have their nose down. They're going on a trail. Like, that buck's telling you what his plans are going to be for the next 25 days.
Yeah.
So at some point they will do it.
Yeah.
You just have to be there when they do.
Yeah.
So the trail that I'm set up on, I've seen him do it, and I've seen the other bucks do it.
Right.
I know he's going to do it again.
Right.
I just have to be there when he does.
And I'm the same way. It's like,
for you,
I'm on his fringe. I'm on his fringe. He's not a regular. I don't need him to be a regular. I just need him to do it once.
That's it.
I just need one more time.
Yeah, and he will. I mean, he did it on the 31st, cruising.
Yeah.
And there's so many hot does right now.
Yeah.
That he's not.
Well, that's the other problem we run into with that farm. The farm, though, they haven't killed a doe in 40 years.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
So the problem is, I see very, very inferior bucks breeding does.
Well, you know,
because the does need bred. They're not going to be picky.
Every doe will be bred, and every buck will breed. Your spike, like your year and a half year old, your yearling. You know,
what's frustrating though is on our property is that the guy who runs the property thinks he's growing big buck that way. I'm like, dude, no, you're letting the smallest buck breed. Like, what are you talking about? You're getting these scrubby. We got a bad habit of thin rack buck that are not point heavy.
Hey, like, Maddie,
we'll get a.
Sorry.
Oh, she's all right.
Hey, Maddie, we grab her.
Calling in the reinforcements on her. I was going to give her a headset, but
she'll tell you a lot of crazy stories.
But you know, we've got a couple bloodlines running around there. Bring that back closer. I think you pushed it away. But one of the bloodlines is wide, kind of thin, nice wide racks, but they're just not point heavy. You know, I mean, you'll see a buck coming through the woods. You're like, oh my God, look at the frame on that thing. It's a 6-point.
Yeah.
It's not even legal in Pennsylvania.
High point gene.
Yeah, but like the young ones I saw the other day, you know, they might grow into something else, but those things are breeding like crazy, right? There's nothing to – and the other problem I run into, like you said, is there's not a lot of chasing.
Yeah.
There's really not, because those buck take 10 steps and they find 3 more.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're not –
that's frustrating. And then I go up to camp, and it's the opposite. Camp has like a nice balance. You're hunting River Hills, and you have a hot doe come through. You're going to have a serious buck chasing it, like, because they're really trying to cut a doe, you know, which is completely different. But
even if your buck to doe ratio was 1-to-1, every buck would still breed a doe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never gonna like not have the only way you just got to kill that buck.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter how many other bucks are around, but yeah, I just, you know, the name of the game right now is like, if you haven't seen a deer that you're hunting dead, then you have to assume that he's locked down. That's why he's not on camera. That's why you haven't seen him. And that's what's going on with my deer stacks. And that's what's going on with your drop town buck is there's so many hot does
and the 10-point that's over there. And like we got a nice high rack 10 that we'd love to take. He's gone too. Same thing. He's not gone. He's locked.
As the daylight buck movement graph goes up.
Yeah.
Your doe and estrus heat graph is going down.
Yeah. And they're going to start getting desperate,
So
start chasing again.
the bucks are going up, and the does. It's not happening yet. Well, as the does start going into heat and their line starts rising, your buck movement graph starts dropping, and then there's that crossing point where there's so many does in heat that your buck movement really sucks. But then when we get on the other side, which is coming, as the number of does in heat starts to drop, your buck daylight movement graph is going to rise again. So we're going to catch that back end of the rut where they're searching for hot doe, and then it'll just kind of go out. And then what the science,
closing time at the bar, man.
That's right.
That's closing time.
What the science says is, the does that don't get bred right now will come back in the cycle in like 14 days. So that's why every year you'll have guys in gun season around the 1st of December. They're like, that buck was chasing a doe. Boy, it's been late this year, late rut. It's like, no, you had a doe that cycled off her.
That's right.
Didn't get bred, and now she's back in heat, and you got some bucks reacting to it. So,
well, hey, let's cut this one here. Maybe we'll continue on. We'll do a part 2. That way we're not throwing a 2-hour-long pod out there. But I'm going to go get myself either a bottle of wine or another Mad Elf, and I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right. Thanks. We'll see you in a bit.